Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Caption, and I'm your host Deepthi Marik. Today, we have a visionary behind a thriving fashion label who is blending business with creativity. Welcome Shivani to the Daily Caption.
Thanks so much, Deepthi, for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, after a long time,
I know I had so much scheduling going back and forth, and I'm so happy that we both finally made it today.
So, before we begin, can you give our audience a bit of introduction about yourself and your label?
Yeah. So, I don't have your typical fashion designing background. I actually majored in business analytics and supply chain management in college. I worked in supply chain, I worked in data analytics, I worked in healthcare consulting. So you can say I've tried out a lot of different things in my life, but I've always had that passion for fashion. And I think that was cultivated in me growing up, seeing my grandmother, who actually would design a lot of my clothes. So with her, I kind of got into it, and I would say from the age of 14, like a decade ago, I've been designing all my Indian clothes myself. Because when I went to the shops, I just didn't find ready-made items that I really loved. Like, it was like the color was off, the cut was off, fitting, right? So I'm like, okay. And that's the greatest part of living in India. I'm like, you can really make anything from scratch that you want to. Like, I grew up in America for the past 20 years, and things like this are not as easily accessible. Like, you'll have, there's one big fabric chain store called Joann's, and you literally cannot find any of the fabrics that you find here. And also tailors are so rare, they're so expensive. So going back to what I was saying, I always had that passion for making my own clothes. And in ninth grade, we got to choose an elective in high school. And I decided to choose fashion designing. So it was 1 year of fashion designing where I learned how to do the fashion sketches and learned basic stitching as well. And, I did design something, and then I got to walk in a fashion show in front of my whole school and that. So I think that's where it all kind of started. And then once I got to college, it's that rat race of just going up the corporate ladder. So I was like, oh my God, I need to get an internship every summer after college, with every grade in college. And, it was just all about that corporate hustle and comparing myself to people around me. It's just like, what internship did you get? What job did you get? What's your pay? This and that. And where I grew up in New Jersey, Central Jersey, it was around a lot of our fellow Daisies. And you know how we tend to be, no matter where we are in the world. It's always like, oh, that neighbor's son got this and getting paid this much. And you really know nothing other than tech. It's either you become an engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor. And one thing I'm super grateful for is that my parents never pushed me in one direction. They kind of gave me the space that I needed to do whatever I wanted, but they were just like, excel in whatever you do. So the ambition and drive that I've always had has been my own, but I'm very grateful that they gave me a chance to explore my options. So basically, I got really burnt out doing healthcare consulting. It was like 4-hour presentations, workshops to clients. I was taking on other people's work, and like 2 weeks before I quit my job, I think I was working like 12 to 13 hour work.
Oh God.
So it was not easy. And this was during the pandemic. So I was already so isolated. It's my first job out of college. Literally see no one. And I was going a little crazy being at home all the time, So I quit my job after a year into the job. And I honestly, this is very untraditional. I took 2 years to just figure out what I wanted to do. And during that time, I just tried out everything. I did professional photography, food photography for restaurants. I got into travel content creation. I did a 1-year data science program. So I put my foot in like everything. And I think that's the best thing I did for myself, because when you don't give yourself that chance to explore, you don't even know where your skills are, where you're good at. You have to cultivate that self-awareness in yourself in order to, you can't expect an 18-year-old to choose their life path, And I think that's crazy. It's like in India, like you do your 10th exams, they're like, oh, what are you going to be when you grow up? How can you decide as a 15-year-old?
Exactly. Like the other day, me and my friends were discussing about the same thing. Like, people change, switch, like switching is normal, is becoming normal these days. But then, how do people even switch? Like, how did you, how did you get the courage in yourself to switch different fields? Because there is always this fear, at least in myself, that am I going to fail? Now, if I take up something, am I going to fail in this? Or if I don't excel in this, what next? What will I do? What next? Things like that. How did you get the courage in yourself to explore different things? That's actually a big step.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. It's quite scary, and I can't sit here and tell you, Shay, that I'm completely fearless and I don't have fears. But I think I've changed my mindset so much over these past few years, and it comes from the experiences I had. So you asked, where did I find the courage to make this move, right? And I'll owe it all to one trip that I did. It was my first solo trip. I had gone to Bali for 15 days. And the reason why I did that trip is because I'm pretty much an extrovert. Like, there are some days that I'll be an introvert, but I'm mostly extroverted. So that means that I draw all of my energy being around people. So when I'm not around people, I kind of get into a funk. I feel sad. I feel unproductive. And then I realized, I was like, this is not good. Like, I can't depend on being around other people to get work done. Like, I'm an ambitious girl. Like, I have goals that I want to reach. So I was like, okay, my goal for this year is learning how to be alone. I had gone through some friendship breakups, some romantic breakups, things with family, this and that. And also I had left my job. So I was truly alone. I wanted to learn how to be alone without feeling lonely. And I think that is like my superpower now, because even before coming to this podcast, I got my nails done by myself. I took myself on a little solo lunch date, and now I'm here with you. So like, you have to truly learn how to enjoy your company. So going on that trip, it was one, to learn how to be alone, and also learning to trust myself. And like, if I want to really trust the decisions I make in life, I have to put myself into a completely different environment. Like, traveling, it was a 22-and-a-half flight journey from me to go from New York to Bali. 22-and-a-half hour journey. And it was not easy. And then even when I got there, it's like learning how to think quickly on your feet. Like, the cab is not coming. What's your other mode of transportation? You got dropped off the wrong spot. Are you getting scammed? You never know. Like, thankfully in Bali, I didn't get scammed at all, but it's possible,
Yes.
There's all these things that really help you trust yourself, build that, like, I feel like after that trip, I just gained such good intuition. I think that also comes with the spiritual aspect of Bali itself. I had gone there as like kind of like an eat, pray, love trip. So it's it was a very healing trip. And Bali itself was not that difficult to go through, but I had gone to Taiwan on my layover back to New York. And I spent it was a 22-hour layover. And the old me would have been like, okay, I'm just going to stay in the airport, just crash there for a bit, and get on my flight, go back home. But then the next step, I was like, okay, let me just get a hotel, because it's not going to be comfortable staying in the airport. And then the next step was like, well, I'm already going to be there. Why won't I explore? So it's like taking these small steps that allow you to get out of your comfort zone. So I think doing that is what helped me build that trust in myself, because Taiwan was difficult. Bali, everything is in English. People can read English. I mean, they can read English, but they still talk in English because it's a very service-oriented tourism spot. In Taiwan, it's not like that. Everything is written in Chinese. Most people don't speak English. I've also noticed the culture difference between the Balinese people and the Taiwanese people. They're both very nice people, but Balinese people will like ask you how you're doing, do you need help, this and that. Taiwanese people tend to keep to themselves. So if you really need help, you need to go up and like muster up the courage to ask them. So also in Taiwan, my SIM stopped working. Like if I wanted to order food on the app they had, I forget what it's called, everything's in Chinese. My Google Translate wasn't working because my SIM was not. I had no data. Yeah. So it's like, despite all those things, I still saw like 3 to 4 top places in Taiwan by myself, made my flight on time safely, and that gave me so much confidence in life. And I think after going through that whole experience, I was like, okay, I didn't know in that moment that I was going to come to India and start this brand. I made that decision like 2 months later, but I was like, okay, I can take risks in life, because I've also met a lot of people on the Bali trip that were doing very unique things with their life. Like, I did meet a person who was working in tech. Like, there was a person who studied fashion designing in New York, and then she came back to Bali and started a perfume shop. Oh, like, it's so random, right? So, like, that's probably what you think about me. Like, you grew up in America for 20 years. What made you want to come here? So it's like, when you travel, you get to meet people who walk different paths in life. Yeah, so you get really inspired by them. And for me, it was, I saw that they were very fulfilled with their lives, and they were very healthy. Like, I felt like they weren't stressed individuals. And coming from America, where the hustle culture is so prevalent, and it's almost a competition. Like, oh, I always have 6 hours of sleep. I only got 6 hours of sleep last night. Your friend will be like, well, yeah, oh yeah, like, I only got 4, and look at how much I'm doing. So I'm like, when did this become the standard? Yeah, that's not healthy at all. And so then going to Bali, seeing so many vegan cafes. No, I'm not vegan, but like, healthy, whatever. So many healthy options for food. So many activities, yoga everywhere, yoga, meditation, Reiki, all that stuff. And people just doing joyous work. Like, work that was in line with their passion and purpose in life. And you could just see that there was like a glow in their face, right? So I was like, I want that. So when I went back to the States, I was like, what can I do that's going to give me that? So I didn't settle on fashion designing and coming to India and making this brand all at once. I did different things. I started with UGC content creation. Then I was like, let me do travel content creation, because I documented everything in Bali. Then I started pitching restaurants to do photography for them. And I actually picked up my professional camera and learned how to use that. Then I also became a food writer for a magazine. So I was trying all these different things, which those are actually still part of my life now. And during that time, those 2 years I had to myself, I really realized that I'm a type of person that I feel most fulfilled when I'm doing different things. I'm just not someone who can stick to one thing. Even with the fashion brand, even my mom now is like, we chose one thing, stick to it. I'm like, but I need to do all these things. I like going to my dance workshops. I like cooking. I like doing all these things, because I like the feeling of a new experience and something different. So, and that's something I had to come to terms with, because there's not many people like me in society, and I didn't meet a lot of people like that. And I only did this year, like in India, I've met several people like that, which is honestly, like, I feel like I really creatively thrive in India, which is why I love it here.
So actually, I wanted to ask you about this. This was my top question.
Yeah.
Like, what is the culture difference you found in America and here in India? Like, how is it different? Is that good, better, or this one, or how does it feel?
It's funny you bring this up, because my mom, who's been staying with me and supporting me on this journey for the past few months, she and I talk about this almost every day. Like, every time we notice something, we're like, oh, in America it's like this, here it's like this. It's all about like adapting to it. I'm not going to say one place is better than the other, because if I did feel like one place was better than the other, I would settle down completely in one place. And now, right now, my heart is torn between both places. And I think in my future, I'm going to just have to balance going back and forth, because I can't decide on one place to choose. And I think I honestly don't need to put that pressure on me to choose. Like, I have the freedom to go back and forth, so I might as well. So I would say the cultural differences, I think,
you have mentioned that you have found many people in India who are creatively enthusiastic. Yeah. So, but the narrative has always been told the other way for all of us here.
Yeah.
That like in US, people that try different things out. Not most of them are engineers or doctors or lawyers.
Yeah.
But India is the other way around. But here, I listen to you a completely different narrative.
So, yeah, I'll tell you why it's different. And I'm actually shocked at myself for seeing that difference here. And I think what's happened is that, one, I grew up in the suburbs of New Jersey.
Okay.
So if I had been in a metropolitan area like New York City, I think I would have surrounded myself with a lot more creatives. I'm living in Hyderabad here. I'm not living in like another town or village area, right? Where it's kind of expected of you to go get an education, get a certain job. So I've been connecting with creatives here, and I've made it a point to connect with other creatives. I think in the US, it was my mindset like, oh, I just can't find people like me. So then I was stuck in that bubble. But like once that I've made it an intention of mine to like, I need to seek out people that are similar to me and have those peers around me, because those are going to be a source of inspiration for me. So I think that's one. So you and I met at Gaia Living. Yeah, even that was like part of my exploration. Like on Instagram, I'd just be like, what groups are hosting different workshops or events. And yeah, and then when I go there, I try to network and connect with people and then like ask them if they know any other events happening, this and that. And I think I've seen a big change in India and like Hyderabad specifically, where a lot of people are doing more creative, artistic things, and I see so many choreographers popping up, content creators, so many startups. Like I feel like Hyderabad is like the hub for startups now. It's so nice to see because I feel like I have way more opportunity here in Hyderabad than I did back in Bombay. And it's solely because of like the people that I surrounded myself with, and I think did it have many risk takers around me, so it was like I would feel very awkward doing that. But then once I made that move here, I have met so many people here. I'm like, whoa, like what you're doing is so cool. And then I'm like, wait, I also did something like this. I'm like, we're all one and the same, you know. So you were mentioning about your journey throughout, like you have done this and then you have done the other thing. So like you took a lot of risks. By taking all of these risks, I know I'm talking a lot about being scared, but because I am scared of papers, weren't you scared of your living? Like how you were going to earn your living or something? How did you earn your living at that point of time? So I'm very grateful that I got to live at home during this process in America. There's another cultural difference. In India, it's very common to live with your parents. Like no one is supposed to play with you. Even if you're 30, in America, they'll be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you living off your parents? Can't you level up? And I think the one thing I did that I'm really proud of myself is that since a young age, I've actually been working since the age of 16. So even while I was in school, I was tutoring. And then in college, I always had internships. And those internships ended up extending throughout college. So I was constantly working. And I'm someone who is always striving for financial independence and freedom. And so from a young age, I tried to educate myself on like saving and investing and all those things. So how I created that cushion for myself to be able to take 2 years off is that when I was working, I saved heavily because I was like, I'm living at home. I saved maybe 50 to 60% of my income. And not only did I save, I also invested. And those investments came in handy. Because it's like the compound interest on whatever I put in, I can just live off of that interest or use that for like expenses here and there. So the combination of that, my living expenses were covered by my parents, thankfully, which I'm so grateful for. And then during my 2 years, I invested in myself, like whatever money that I had saved. I didn't want to just waste it on like material things. I invested in training, certifications, equipment. Like I bought camera, tripod, all these things because I knew I wanted to grow my personal brand. And I also started pitching myself. I did freelance work. So with the photography and all, I was able to build clients, like a clientele, and also build those connections. And that's kind of how I got my opportunities. Like I even, earlier this year, right before I came to India, I actually came to India from Thailand. And I wasn't going to go to Thailand, but one of my friends who is a travel content creator, she was hosting a group trip to there. And she told me, she was like, I know you're taking the content thing seriously and you want to film and edit for other people. Why don't you come on my trip and I'll pay you? And I was like, I can't miss this opportunity out. So not only did I meet like-minded travelers, I also got paid to do my work. So that kind of gave me the courage. I was like, okay, I booked my ticket to Thailand. And I was like, I'm booking my ticket to India from there. It's only like 4 hours away. So I was like, yeah, it was kind of such a different experience to book a one-way ticket like that, because even though it seems to you like I take a lot of risks, I used to be a very, very fearful person, very calculated. I still am very type A, but I think I do it in a more spontaneous way. Like I'll have that like inkling that I want to do something. The gut feeling. I really go based off my intuition nowadays. I did it. Like I used to really think with my head back then. Like I was never like someone who thought with my heart. But I think head, heart, like gut is like what you have to go with. So I take my gut feeling and then I'm like, okay, what action plan can I make to make this dream come true? So I think that's kind of what I did. And this was all like a mindset shift that honestly took like 2 years in the growing to get to this stage. So still have my fears, but I would rather take that risk and not live with regret than live with not ever trying it out.
Yeah. I actually aspire to be you. Oh, because freaking see, the first thing that you said was being alone but not lonely. That was actually my resolution this year. Shivani. So could you tell us what makes your brand different from others? So like, what made you start a different fashion label? How is it different from the others that are existing?
Right. So just to give a little bit background of my brand, it's called Label Prem Anand, and it comes from both of my grandfather's names. One was named Prem Das, and another one's called Anand Kumar. So I kind of merged them two together. And honestly, like I've had this idea since I was in 9th grade. Again, I thought it sounded like a really nice luxury brand. So I would say what sets me apart is our usage of Indian handlooms and authentic Indian textiles, embroideries, and artwork in modern silhouette form. So my target audience is people who live abroad, actually. So I would say the demographic is women right now from the ages of 18 to 30 primarily. And what I've noticed during my market research, just being consumer of Indian fashion in America, is that you find a lot of synthetic materials like polyester-based things, chiffon, georgette, not pure ones, in the market. And then they'll just do some like embroidery and beadwork. But you'll look at it and it's kind of like that like Bollywood-esque vibe. And it's like what everyone thinks they see fashion is. But I'm trying to take it back to our roots and show what they see fashion is in the traditional sense. But I also know that people over there are not going to wear traditional silhouettes. So when I say modern designs with these traditional fabrics and all, I'm talking about I've been working on like corsets, but using like Banaras fabrics.
Oh,
Yeah, so stuff like that. And like draped skirts paired with like a corset or like a blazer, like a Kanchipuram blazer, stuff like that. Working on really nice gowns using pure organza and certain types of embroideries. I do a lot of research into the different embroideries all across India. And like some of the stuff I love is like Kashmiri Parsi work. It's all thread work and it usually has motifs of roses. So that, and I've also taken an Indian folk art class where I learned Patachitra paintings, which are from Orissa. And so like I like to incorporate those things into my design. So for example, like my mom recently turned 50 and I decided to surprise her with a sari that took a lot of hours of designing because this was the first time I hand drew all the work that goes onto it too. So I looked at one of the paintings that I did in my Patachitra class. I took the border for that. I turned that border into the border of the sari. And then for the blouse, I hand drew all the work that goes around the blouse. So it's like completely beadwork front and back. So that's kind of, but it's not done on your like traditional fabrics. I did it on Tupion silk, which a lot of designers are using nowadays. And I think designers like Anushree Reddy and forgetting her name. There's another one. I can't remember. But both of them use, and it's a really lightweight fabric, but it has that opacity that, sometimes elder women might want to not wear something so sheer. So to sum it all up, I would say what makes me stand out and like what my USP is that we're trying to bring it back to our roots and show that our traditional attire can be worn in a more modern way. And, maybe showing like the NRIs living out there that there is beauty in this. And it's our job, honestly. I do feel like it's my mission to preserve this tradition. Just like we pass down language, we need to pass down our art as well.
Yes.
So it doesn't die down.
So why only people in abroad? Why can't you try?
So I do sell here too, and I have clients here. It's just that I want to build my base there primarily because I know I will move back. So like even though I'm primarily focusing there, I know that I will build clientele in India as well.
Coming back to Banaras courses, yes, I would love to see one of those these days.
Yeah, I'd love to show you.
Corset, it's a completely modern thing and that upcoming fashion trendy things. And whereas Banaras, it's something that's like you were telling, that's from our roots.
Yeah.
And you have mixed both of them. That's really amazing.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate the way you're doing. You're trying to do your job in mixing the tradition. I've been in this journey where I've been learning new things about our cultures, our tradition. And every time I learn, I have this thing in myself that I need to put this out. I need to tell this to people because we do a lot of stuff in our daily life. Then we don't know meaning of, we don't try to know the meaning of most of them. That really irritates me. It is irritating me these days, but I was like that back then.
Yeah.
So I really love that you're mixing both so that it will help people to know more about our tradition too. So you were telling.
Yeah, so thank you for those kind words. I think I would love to take our Indian heritage on a global level, and I think we're seeing some designers like Sabyasachi, Alia Bhatt, she wore his design at the Met Gala, right? That's how we're starting to get recognition. But I want to see a world in where non-Indians are wearing Indian fabrics, at least. I'm not saying I want to see them flaunt saris here and there because that is cultural appropriation. But it would be so nice to see like a Caucasian woman wearing a Banaras corset with a satin skirt, And I think that's going to happen by showing them in like blazers, corsets, pantsuits, those kind of things. And then they'll slowly get a taste of what our fabrics are. And then they'll have an appreciation for our traditional attire. I think if they suddenly see they see saris and lehengas with Ambani wedding, they've seen that. And for them, it's like they exoticize. They're like, oh my God, like this exotic, like Indian attire, like it's so expensive. It's not accessible to me. I want to make it accessible. Yeah, the word. I want them to be able to wear it every day, nighttime, party, anything, So I think that's what I really like to do. I think a lot of it comes from the curiosity I have. So what you were saying earlier, that we typically don't question the things that we do.
Yes.
And I think ever since I was little, I've always been a really curious kid, and I definitely know that annoyed some of the adults in my life because I would always ask a question, they would say no, and then I would have a follow-up question. But, I think I'm really happy that by getting all those no's from adults, that didn't shut down my curiosity. I just found different means to seek out my answers. Yeah, because if I took like my mother's and father's and aunts and uncles' no's and said, okay, no one's answering my question, I'm done, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Yes.
Like, you should really know how to question things around you. And over the past few years, I've really been getting connected with my Indian roots. And I think even being Indian and being an Indian, being brought up in America, there's very much like different layers to your identity, right? Like, I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm Indian American. And within that, I'm like, okay, I'm Telugu American. So understanding the Telugu part, and then understanding where in the Telugu region that I'm from. And you're kind of like an onion. You have to peel back all the layers to get to the core of like who you are, right? So with a lot of that, I spent like during those 2 years, I learned so much about what Hinduism actually is. What are our ancient practices with yoga and meditation? And once you start learning all those things, you're like, okay, all these Western people that are bringing back our traditions, this new age enlightenment, all of this, right? You realize how much they're diluting. And like you see so many like people just kind of wearing our malas, and they'll be chanting stuff, and it's not even the right accent, so they're doing their best. But it's like, are they doing it because they really feel connected to it, or is it a new trend thing to be boho and all this way, right? So like, I was like, I cannot fault anyone else if I don't learn this myself.
Yes.
I'm someone who, questions everything, is curious, and I find different ways to find those answers.
Questioning yourself, that is something I have learned the hard way around. So, okay, we have come to the end. So, let me ask you about your artist state. Because that is something where I really got connected with you. I have had this goal for myself since May 2024, something around it, that I would go out every weekend and explore things. But mostly I couldn't do most part of it. But then you are doing it every single week. Yeah, so that I'm seeing on your Instagram.
Yes.
So could you tell us a bit about your artist dates too?
Yeah, so an artist date is pretty much a solo date with yourself. It doesn't have to be something different each time, but I try to make it different each time, just so each time I want to put myself out of my comfort zone so I can grow. And this idea was actually written in a book called The Artist Way by Julia Cameron, and that is it's a 12-week program to creative recovery, is how she puts it. It's actually kind of a very spiritual journey that you go on. And it's spiritual not in the sense that, like, I know some people get turned off by that word because they're like, I'm an atheist, I'm agnostic, I don't want to do this. And it still doesn't mean that you're atheist or anything. Yeah, at the end of the day, spirituality is just being connected with yourself. Unlike other painting workshops, art workshops. And I think that, one, you get to meet like-minded people, and two, you get to see like what are my other creative interests. And actually, I'm reading The Artist Way a second time around. I'm doing the whole thing as a time around. So I've done it for the first 3 months of the year. Now I'm doing it the last 3 months of the year. So one of the most recent lessons that they talked about was how allowing yourself gentle creative exploration is what's going to make you less rigid of a person. So let me kind of break down what that means. So basically what that means is, I mentioned that this is kind of a spiritual book, right? And what the author, Julia Cameron, means by that is basically you kind of have to let go of control. You can't keep thinking that, like, whatever, if I do X, it's going to result in Y. And actually going back to what we were talking about, our roots and traditions, right? That time that I spent like actually learning about Hinduism and all, there is a quote in the Bhagavad Gita called Nishkama Karma, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but it basically means karma is like a deed, and then nishkama is like without us expecting the fruits, just do your action. So every day, just keep doing your action. Don't expect the fruits, because they're bound to come one day or another. So even if you are doubting yourself with the podcast, thinking like, I want to be more regular with it, just keep going. Don't expect things to come. Like, actually don't expect things to come, but know that they will come. Just have such a strong faith that they're going to come to you, but you have to put in the work every day. There's so many times that I wanted to stop my content journey or my fashion journey, but I'm just like, if I do it today, even if it's 5-10 years later, the fruits will come.
Yes.
But I'm not expecting them right now.
Yes.
I think once you have that switch go off in your head, that's when things start rolling around. Because believe it or not, last month, I was kind of like, I don't know if this whole business thing is for me. Like, maybe I should go back to America, get a job, do all this. But then I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. I did this for a reason. I'm going to do it.
Really?
Within a week, I got like 3 custom orders.
Wow.
Because I have that faith. I'm like, I'm just going to do my work.
Yes.
I'm not going to be like, I did X, Y, and Z today, so I better get 3 orders the next day. I never thought that. I didn't say I want the orders. I said, I'll put in the work. Universe, you take care of the rest.
Yeah. I really like your spiritual side. Like, let's make another podcast.
Yes, I would love to.
Complete podcast on spirituality because there's so much even I want to speak on. I don't know. So, like you were telling about the podcast thing, like keep doing it because that coming to the daily difficulty that I had today was just getting up and coming till here. That took a lot of time. It doesn't really like you were telling, and I did have difficulty in waking up and coming till here because I don't know why. Suddenly, I just felt like, oh, why am I like you were telling, why am I doing this? Like, I have done a podcast in May, and now this is October. Like, I thought I would make one every alternate month at least, but then it has been 4 to 5 months, and I was questioning myself. I was like, why am I doing this? What is this going to result me? But then, I have read this thing somewhere 2 years back, I guess. Good content always comes around. So that was the only thing that pushed me till here. And I'm really glad I did this because I was feeling so low in the morning, but now I feel so happy. I feel like I can do anything right.
That's so great. And also, just know that those periods of lows, right? There's always a high that's going to come right after it. Like, you don't know what happiness feels like without knowing what sadness feels like, right? So if you are in that position where you're questioning yourself, like, am I even doing the right thing? You're on the right path. Because if you're not questioning anything you're doing, that means you're living a mundane life. And which is okay for some people. They want that. They want a very safe, secure, routine lifestyle. But I can tell that you're not that type of person. So if that's what you're chasing, if you're having these doubts, if you're having these questions, that is actually a good sign that you're on the right path. And slowly you will figure it out. You just have to have that self-trust that I will figure it out no matter what. And you'll definitely get there.
So coming to the end, like, do you have any message to young aspiring entrepreneurs like me?
Yes, I mean, I feel like we talked about so many things. We touched on like finances, we touched on a lot, scared, learning how to be alone, spirituality, this and that. And I think that's what it takes to be a good entrepreneur. You truly have to be well-rounded.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be someone who's like, I'm very good at finances, I'm going to start my own company. No, like, I really feel like a good entrepreneur has good life management and how you manage your relationships with people, how you manage your relationship with money, spirituality. All these things is what is going to make you be a good leader at the end of the day.
At the beginning of the podcast, I thought this would go about fashion and all, but I'm so glad to having to talk about so many different topics that I am also interested in, and we are mutually interested.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Shivani, for taking your time out and coming till here for doing the podcast with us, and thank you all for staying with us till the end of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deepthi, and I'm so grateful that I went on that artist date that day and met you. See, like, I truly believe in the butterfly effect, like a small thing is going to affect everything. Because had I not read the book, had I not gone on the artist date, I wouldn't meet you and I wouldn't be here today. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I really hope some of you took away something from anything I said. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the Daily Cash.